The show is Good Morning Africa. My name is Mira Mugutu, and welcome to the show. I'll take us through the headlines this morning, and then I'll bring us a detailed news bulletin, and then thereafter we shall look at some of those leading stories in details. We start with those from Kenya, and the Star newspaper. Phone lines busy as millions dash for hustler cash. 8 million Kenyans previously blacklisted get second chance to access loans. That story is on page 4 and 5 on this time. MPs race again. It's time to process PSS before recess. That story is on page 8. Raila Ruto IBC war to play out in Parliament today. You'll find that on page 6. And PS beat pregnant wife with Masai Rungu as we watched. That is what the maid said in that assault hearing. I think we mentioned it here yesterday. One of the PSs right now. That story is on page 9 on the Star newspaper. The Standard newspaper, hustler, a game changer in sticking with his campaign promise. President William Ruto launches the Hustler Fund that will see borrowers access credit at an all-time low interest rate of 8% a year. The low-income earners will not only benefit from the loans but also save part of what they are borrowing. That story is on page 6 and 7, and I think the Standard has outlined how that is going to work, the eligibility, if you default, what will happen, what you need to know about the fund, and all that. So if you're interested, then you can get the details and get yourself some hustler fund, I guess. Relief for Sarah as DPP seeks to end Cohen murder case. That story is on page 8. The Daily Nation, Ruto reads his bickering CSS the Riot Act. Angered by what he said was a failure to adopt the collective responsibility doctrine, President William Ruto called the cabinet secretaries to order, fearing that their public clashes were exposing the nascent Kenya Kwanza administration to ridicule. That story is on page 4. I'm sure he knows something about that. Azimio plots powerful opposition leader office. That story is on page 5. And Kenya records rise in new HIV infections. So that is what we have there in the leading newspapers from across the country. Let's look at some regional newspapers now, shall we? The Guardian from Nigeria, NGF mum as federal government shifts blame for high poverty to governors. The Nation, also from Nigeria, minister states to blame for rising poverty and hardship, and doctors flag Pari decline. That is a news day from Zimbabwe. And the Daily News as well from Zimbabwe, presidency is not a walk in the park. Charamba warns ED's aspirant 2023 challenger. Okay, the New Vision from Uganda, Museveni explains a teacher's salary. Uganda's best teachers unveiled at national celebration. And just a reminder, the wife of the president is the minister for education there in Uganda. So they're working together. It's a wonderful thing, I guess. The Daily Monitor, also from Uganda, attacks on police and not by rebels, General Otafiire. Okay. The Citizen from Tanzania, government allays fears of ATCL plane seizure. And the Herald, this must be from Zimbabwe, choppers water bomb resurgent Bay fires. No, it's from South Africa. And Ramaphosa has case to answer, inquiry on Pala fines. And I think I have that news in detail. So Wetton also from South Africa, who is Waluse's attacker? You know, that guy who stabbed anti-apartheid hero Chris Hani. He had been in jail for nearly 3 decades, and the court decided to release him on parole. So while they're still waiting for the 10 days to lapse for him to be released, he was attacked inside the jail. So the Sowetan from South Africa is explaining to us who was behind this attack, and then I think that is where we are going to leave that for right now. So let me just get into the detailed news bulletin. We'll start with the latest on the crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo. President Paul Kagame of Rwanda on Wednesday accused DRC leader Felix Tshisekedi of exploiting the ongoing insecurity in eastern Congo to postpone next year's presidential election. Addressing a parliamentary session after the signing in of new members of the cabinet, President Kagame said he believes the current leadership of the Democratic Republic of Congo is creating a security emergency a year before the country holds presidential election in order to find a reason to postpone the election scheduled for December 2023. Tshisekedi came to power in January 2019 and DRC will hold its next presidential election in December 2023. President Kagame was addressing MPs on Wednesday while officiating the swearing-in of Rwanda's new Minister of Health, Dr. Sabine Nsanzimana, and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Ivan Butera. And staying with that story, the M23 rebels who were not represented at the ongoing inter-Congolese dialogue in Nairobi are currently under sanctions by the Democratic Republic of Congo, have been asked to hand themselves over to the government, failure to which military action will be taken against them. The Democratic Republic of Congo government has reiterated that it will not offer amnesty to the group, which continues to defy calls for cessation of hostilities and exit from the areas of Bunagana, Rutshuru, and Kiwanja, where they are last week asked to leave after the last meeting of the Luanda process in Angola. He reiterated that Kinshasa will not engage the foreign armed groups fighting in eastern Congo and that they must leave the country forthwith. And Angola's Attorney General confirmed on Monday that the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, has issued an international arrest warrant against business lady Isabel dos Santos. The whereabouts of Ms. dos Santos, 49, the daughter of the country's former president Jose Eduardo dos Santos, is not clear, but she has properties and lives between Portugal, the United Kingdom, and the United Arab Emirates. She has been ranked by Forbes as one of Angola's Africa's richest women. Ms. dos Santos is facing $5 billion corruption allegations, which she has denied, saying they were politically motivated. In 2019, a Luanda court decreed the preventative seizure of her personal bank accounts, according to Mr. Helde Peter Gross, who addressed journalists in Luanda after a meeting of the Attorney General's Office Council. The warrant of arrest was issued after she failed to respond to the several notifications that were sent to her by the court. And we come back to East Africa, this time in Uganda, and victims of the rebel Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda have heard mixed reactions to plans by the International Criminal Court to launch proceedings in absentia against the group's fugitive leader Joseph Kony. While some say the action against the leader of the bloody two-decade conflict in northern Uganda would be welcomed, others say it is pointless without Kony being brought to justice. Kony is the International Criminal Court's longest-standing suspect at large. In 1987, he launched his rebellion against the ascent to power of President Yoweri Museveni. After investigations into the Lord's Resistance Army rebellion opened in 2004, the ICC issued an arrest warrant against Kony in 2005. Kony is wanted on 33 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The allegations against him include murder, cruel treatment, enslavement, rape, and attacks against the civilian population. Despite efforts by different nations, including the United States, to capture him, however, the rebel leader remains elusive. Last Thursday, Karim Khan, the prosecutor at the International Criminal Court, announced he had applied to launch hearings against Kony in the rebel leader's absence. Khan said the move will intensify efforts to find Kony. He noted that it will represent a meaningful milestone for victims who have waited patiently for justice for almost 2 decades. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari now says that a war between Russia and Ukraine is allowing arms and fighters to stream into the Lake Chad region, bolstering the strength of the terrorist groups in that area. The Nigerian leader spoke on Tuesday in Abuja to a summit of heads of state from the Lake Chad Basin Commission, LCBC. Buhari called for more vigilance and cooperation among the Commission's 6 member nations against the increased proliferation of weapons into the Lake Chad Basin. He said weapons meant for the Ukraine war and the combat and to combat terrorism in the Sahel are being diverted to West Africa and ending up in the hands of terrorist groups. He did not specify who was diverting the weapons, but said the development was threatening improved stability in the region, where a multinational joint task force created by the LCBCA has been fighting terror forces for years. The Russian and Ukrainian embassies in Abuja did not respond to calls for comments. And then we go to Egypt, where the country has announced the release of 30 political activists from jail, the latest in a series of mass releases from detention amid intensifying international scrutiny over the country's human rights record. There was no immediate word on the identities of the activists, but it was not immediately possible to confirm how many of them have already been released. The announcement came from Tariq El Awadi, a member of Egyptian's Presidential Pardon Committee. He said 30 had been pre-trial detention and facing charges related to their options. El Awadi later posted photographs describing them as showing several of the freed detainees hugging their families and friends. Since 2013, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's government has cracked down on dissidents and critics, jailing thousands, virtually banning protests and monitoring social media. Human Rights Watch estimated in 2019 that as many as 60,000 political prisoners are incarcerated in Egypt prisons, many without trial. Head back to Nigeria, and the government has announced a policy aimed at promoting the teaching of primary school pupils in local languages rather than in English. Education Minister Adamu told journalists on Wednesday that the new framework, known as the National Language Policy, had been approved for implementation. It stipulates that instruction for the first 6 years in primary school will be in the mother tongue. English is Nigeria's official language, and all learning institutions use it as the common language of teaching and learning. But local languages will not take the center stage, with the Education Minister saying pupils learn much better when they are taught in their own mother tongue. He acknowledged that implementing the new policy will be challenging because it will require a lot of work to develop materials to teach and get the teachers. Another challenge is the number of languages spoken in Nigeria, more than 600 local dialects. It's not immediately clear when the government will start implementing the new system. The Nigerian authorities suggest they will first provide teaching materials and teachers for the local languages before the implementation is in earnest. And South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is facing a possible impeachment threat over the Farmgate scandal. The president has been accused of covering up to $4 million theft from his farm in 2020, including kidnapping and bribing the burglars into silence. A leaked report from an independent panel has found that Mr. Ramaphosa abused his position and may have broken an anti-corruption law. He has denied wrongdoing and said the money was from selling buffalo. The panel's findings have been handed to Parliament, which is set to examine them and decide whether or not to launch impeachment proceedings next week. Mr. Ramaphosa is less than a month away from a conference which will decide if he can run for a second term with his party, the African National Congress ANC, in 2024. The incident could particularly be damaging as Mr. Ramaphosa ran for office on anti-corruption ticket. The ANC will hold a meeting with his executive on Thursday, where it is expected that the issue shall be discussed. And matters English again. Nigeria is trying to teach its children in the local languages. But when we come to South Sudan, a comment by South Sudan's Higher Education Minister that most graduates from the country's universities had poor command of English, the nation's official language, has sparked a debate. While others commenting online agreed with the minister's assessment, they blamed poor regulation of the education sector, which they say has failed to enforce higher and consistent standards. The country's civil war has also played a huge part in disrupting learning. Okay, and then we go to Zambia, and I think that's where we shall end this morning. Zambia's leader has said he plans to sell the presidential jet his predecessor bought in his last months in office in controversial circumstances. Hakainde Hichilema said he wants to recover $193 million that was spent to buy the Gulfstream 650. Selling the plane will, however, not be straightforward, as the Zambian Air Force has said that it is not a public but a military asset. However, this has not stopped the anti-corruption body from launching an inquiry. The agency announced on Wednesday that it was looking into how former President Edgar Lungu's government bought the jet at an inflated price instead of the then 65 million US dollar standard price months before he was defeated in the 2021 election. So the initial price of this jet was 65 million US dollars, but what the government paid for is $193 million. Look at that. I want to see this jet. You're now up to date. That is the latest news from across the continent of Africa this morning. Mr. Wanda Wesonga, thank you so much for finding time to joining me this morning. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I think it's a beautiful morning in Nairobi. I see there's some nice sunlight and it's not very hot, so I'm in good spirits.
Gotcha, that's good. Huh?
Yeah. So let's just pick on some stories here that I know you're listening and we have been going through. And okay, let's just look at this story of let's start with the story of Uganda, where now the ICC is launching. I think if Doc was here, he is in a better place to explaining to us because he was part of that process that saw the end of that bloody war in Uganda. But nevertheless, we'll just see what we can say about it. So the ICC now, after the truce and some peace was agreed upon, but Kony is still at large. And now the ICC has launched proceedings, and they're saying they want to start these proceedings at the ICC in absentia. And what is interesting is the victims who were the victims of his brutal movement, they are torn. They don't know whether to support that. They don't know. Others perhaps have moved on. So I don't know. What do you make of this story?
When it comes to ICC, in this case, I intend to go the line of Dr. Masanga. That Dr. Masanga is one of the person whom, when you mention ICC, then in one way or the other, you're picking a fight with him. Now, when you look at the Ugandan case, and that is the Dr. Kony, I really don't. Kony has been in the hiding for so many years now. That some of us have been, when we were still young, we have grown to this age. We still don't know where is this Kony, but we keep hearing of Kony. I don't know, people being promised some good amount if one will get Kony handed to them. And Kony has been fighting for a number of years, which for a person, any war is expensive. And if any war is expensive and this guy is in the hiding, then how does he finance? How does he finance all this altogether? And number two, when you look into the history of Uganda, and probably the reason why Kony got into the bush to fight, Uganda. I beg to believe that for so many years, probably Uganda has never had a very stable regime that is democratic in nature, but how Museveni got into fight, it was more of people fighting for their share. Now, the story of Kony and the ICC involvement in this, I feel like ICC should not be so much into what is happening in Africa, and I don't know why they struggle so much into what is happening with Kony unless there is something that we actually don't know. And I feel like the Kony and the Kony, the fighting and all those, the war and everything in Uganda should be well sorted either with a region or at a national level. Therefore, I completely don't buy the idea of the ICC. I feel like we need to know why Kony got into the hiding, why he keeps fighting, why and who supports, who funds him. Okay. Then all together, we sort out our own issues as persons.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's move on to a story that we've been talking about here every day because it's a developing story and it's very important. And that is on the Democratic Republic of Congo and the latest utterances by Rwanda's President Paul Kagame yesterday. And he accused the Democratic Republic of Congo leaders, Felix Tshisekedi, of exploiting the ongoing insecurity in Eastern Congo to postpone next year's presidential election. First of all, what is happening in the DRC, from what we see for the, the international media that is able to go to the ground and cover, and the reports that we've been seeing, and the mass movement of people from their homes because they're not safe because of this conflict, cannot be something that someone would sit to exploit to have an election, and are not holding fort here for the DRC's president. What is happening in the DRC is serious.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is happening in DRC, exactly as you put it, it's very serious. And I was happy listening to Paul Kagame. Like, at least for once, we are getting to understand, or we have been speculating, beating around the bush, not knowing exactly what is happening in DRC. But when you listen carefully to Paul Kagame, President Paul Kagame, he's now pointing a direct finger at President Felix Tshisekedi. That and then as he points a finger at him, from Paul Kagame's words, you can quickly pick an analysis from it that he could be involved, or Rwanda could be directly involved in this. He's not saying no over it, but the involvement of Paul Kagame in it, he feels like he can justify. He feels that there is a justification on why he gets this. When he goes ahead to say that he'll want his own people, the Rwandese at the border, to sleep peacefully, to sleep knowing that they are secured. Kagame is probably trying to tell us that the reason why he gets involved in this is because he's being pushed to do whatever they keep doing. Miriam?
Go ahead, I can hear you, sorry.
Okay. Now, which Paul Kagame's statements, there are statements that he is now asking for people to put down President Felix and demand some answers from him. Demands answers on the involvement of President Felix in the crisis in the DRC Congo. Although still President Paul Kagame is not distancing himself from what is happening there, but he's coming in to tell people that for as long as someone is causing insecurity to my people feels insecure, I'll not be that easy push. I'll get in and protect my people. He goes ahead to confirm and say, if we call for war, then he knows what war means. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I'm happy that what is happening in Congo, people are now finally talking. Mm-hmm. And it is from this talking that a solution will finally be realized. But at the same time, I feel like President Felix of DRC Congo should equally come out clear and confirm what President Kagame was telling us yesterday. But as a person, I feel like, yes, we are finally now getting there, because if people are fighting and nobody is ready to talk, then it becomes very hard to find a solution or to sort the mess. Mm-hmm. But when those that you've been pointing fingers at are now talking, they're now telling us it's because of so and so. Like the other day when we were at that conference, at the UNGA conference, President Felix ended up pointing a finger at President Kagame, but President Kagame never said anything. In this case, President Kagame at that point was not ready to talk. Mm-hmm. But when President Kagame finally comes out and starts saying, we even wanted to arrest the insecurity in DRC Congo. We wanted to help arrest this team. The one that we believed was causing insecurity. But President Felix said, no, I'll do it, but we are not seeing it happening. In this case, President Paul Kagame is telling the world that I'm ready to have this sort out. Mm-hmm. But let us look each other direct in the eye and address these issues. And therefore, President Felix, I wish to hear what President Felix will say over what President Kagame told us yesterday.
And I'll just read a bit of what President Paul Kagame of Rwanda said. But yes. I don't know what elections in the DRC has to do with anything with Rwanda. I don't know why he found it necessary to comment on the internal electoral process in the DRC. I think on Monday there was a news item over the weekend actually. The Electoral Commission in the DRC already set up a date for next year's election. The Democratic Republic of Congo is meant to go into its elections next year in December. So they've already set a date, and regardless of these challenges as far as security is concerned in the country, they've insisted that the elections will go on. So I don't know why Paul Kagame would have a different thoughts as to what he thinks is going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Also to think about how he does not even allow for such processes to happen in his own country. He's not the one to talk to me about election in another country, but I'll just leave that for right now. So this is what President Paul Kagame said. This problem can be solved if one country headed for elections next year is not trying to create an emergency so that the elections don't take place. Not that he won the first elections, as we know. If he's trying to find another way of having the next elections postponed, then I would rather he uses other excuses, not us. I mean, this is a lot.
Yeah, very true. In the sense that this is interfering with the sovereignty of another country. And as well, you look at the eyes, when you look direct into the eyes of Paul Kagame, he doesn't have any moral authority to lecture any person when it comes to elections. Because, elections in Rwanda, yes, he normally wins. But when you look at how how elections are normally conducted in Rwanda, it's not a case of the president of President Kagame coming in to lecture anybody when it comes to election. Like when he had elections the other day in his own country, he ended up locking down or putting into prison his main competitor. Therefore, Paul Kagame is not any person near to lecturing any person when it comes to elections. Number two, when you look at him probably being interested in DRC's elections, it still raises an eyebrow. It raises an eyebrows, or it raises a question on, does he want to plant his own puppet president so that when he does whatever he's doing there, nobody will know what is happening, or finally we'll come to a realization of peace in DRC Congo, but it is peace at the expense of the riches of the DRC getting into in someone else's pockets or in a different country. Therefore, on that, his statements on trying to involve himself in the elections of DRC Congo, it's not something to go by or to pick, because it's bad. It's getting involved in the sovereignty of another country. In either case, if it is an external force from outside being involved in it, then either should be organized in a regional base, but not a neighbor country wanting to influence or take control over how the other country will conduct the elections, when to conduct or not. Instead, a neighbor can only advise, but a neighbor cannot pick a war or pick a fight when the other nation is not doing the elections. We are neighbors with Uganda. When they do whatever they do, we can only advise, but we have never had an interest of looking into how Museveni struggles with the likes of Bobby Wine, how he struggles with the like of the Kiza, that is Besigye. We have never developed any interest in the sense that Uganda is a sovereign state. The same case, DRC Congo is a sovereign state. Therefore, if anything is happening that you're having insecurity in that region in regards to elections or how they conduct the elections, then the neighbors can only advise. But neighbors cannot directly pick a war on whether elections were conducted, whether they were not conducted. It's not a neighbor's affair. Therefore, Paul Kagame on that is absolutely wrong.
And I think what you just said there earlier on in your statements, what interest does Paul Kagame has? Does he have a preferred candidate? Because he's alluded, and which I think is very, it could be a diplomatic problem. You can't say that the other person didn't get to power legally, and yet he's still the head of state of that country. However, like you've said, I mean, we see the mess that goes on in Uganda, we see the mess that goes on in other countries, but it will not be at our President Ruto's space to go and condemn that. If that is that's how and you have to respect it, the fact that he's the head of state. And we were following these elections in the DRC in 2018 December, and opposition leader Martin Fanyulu, I think that is his name, he was actually doing very well. Then all of a sudden things changed, and the former president, I think, person lost or something. So Tshisekedi all of a sudden was declared the winner, and he joined hands with the candidate that was being supported by the government at that time. So there was a bit of controversy in that election, but the fact that whatever happened, he was still able to be elected, and he was declared the winner, and then everybody else, especially other heads of state, must respect that. Because that is how that process worked out and turned out. And also you said that this could be a chance, because he's been very dodgy in how he's been commenting on this issue, President Paul Kagame. He's just been denying these allegations, but now we can really get into his mind and see perhaps what is his stand as far as this conflict is concerned. And it will be interesting, because I really want us to interrogate this further. This is what he said. It has become so convenient for a long time that all problems are put on the shoulders of Rwanda. Rwanda is always the culprit, not FDLR. The government of the Democratic Republic of Congo should be responsible for its people, not the United Nations, not the powerful countries like the US, UK, and France. So he does not want all these other people who, I think in his opinion, are meddling into this matter. And why does it always come back to Rwanda? So what he's saying is the FDLR, those are the forces of democracy for the liberation of Rwanda, that, the Hutu, that he said were responsible for the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. So that is what President Paul Kagame also said. So now we see, now we can see where we can clearly see his thoughts on this matter now.
Yeah, of which it goes back to exactly as you had said, that at least finally people are now beginning to talk. Because we have always pointed a finger at M23, and the M23 has always rotated around three persons. That is President Paul Kagame, then is, I don't know if I should call him nephew because he likes calling Paul Kagame uncle, that is General Muhoozi. Then definitely President, that is President Museveni, of which we have always pointed a finger at these three persons. But in as much as we've been pointing a finger at these persons, none of them was able to clearly come out and talk. Apart from Muhoozi will at some point tweet, of which you cannot rely on a tweet. A tweet is just a statement that someone else can tweet, and tweet what they want, or generally what they want. But now, when President Kagame now comes out to...
But Wanda, a tweet is not just a tweet. If me and you tweet, then it's just a tweet. If President Ruto tweet, then it's not just a tweet, right? So it depends on who is tweeting, I think.
You're right. You're actually right on that one. You're right on that one. Now, of which when you look at when you start claiming and pointing a finger at the democratic process for the liberation of Rwanda to having involved in the 1994 genocide, it drives us back to what we have been talking about some few days ago. That there is, we have an element of ethnicity being used to bring or to cause conflict cut across the DRC Congo, because when you want to interfere with, or when you fix a statement on the DRC's elections, we again pick another idea that probably is having a preferred candidate, and this preferred candidate definitely has some favors that he might win from them. But all these are now being associated or being attached to the Hutu Tutsis genocide of 1994. And how these ended up causing quite a lot of crisis and conflict in the eastern part of the DRC. because it is from the 1994 genocide that the crisis in DRC Congo ended up being rampant, or ended up now escalating cut across. Therefore, when he points on some of his own people or his own group, that is the Hutu, the Tutsis, or the forces, which in the name itself we have Rwanda in it, and is the father of Rwanda, then he should be in a position to sort the problems that comes with his own people. That let every person play their role. Then we finally come to a realization of peace. But President Uhuru Kenyatta, that is our former president Uhuru Kenyatta, as we appreciate him and acknowledge his efforts into seeing that all these mess are finally coming to end. He is now in for serious work. That is now in to face Paul Kagame, because Paul Kagame is now ready to have a discussion with him. At the same time, Tshisekedi will come in now ready to talk. Therefore, this is a time when President Uhuru Kenyatta is in for serious work.
Now we just started the mediation. Okay. And the M23 rebels who are not represented at the ongoing inter-Congolese dialogue in Nairobi are currently under sanctions by the Democratic Republic of Congo. So they have been told to hand themselves over to the government. I don't know what government. I guess the DRC's government, because nobody's taking ownership of them. So they've been asked to hand themselves over to government, failure to which military action will be taken. And of course, the latest from that region is that the ceasefire is actually holding, and there's not been any renewed attacks. But every army, I think, the rebel groups, they're holding their position. They have not moved from this position in Bunagana, Rutshuru, and Kiwanja. They're supposed to exit these areas because these are in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They're supposed to leave, but they're still holding. They're still in this area. So the government and the mediation team is asking them to leave. If not, then the forces, the East African forces now will attack. The Democratic Republic of Congo's government has reiterated that it will not offer amnesty to the group, which continues to defy calls for cessation of hostilities. But as I've said there's not been any renewed attacks so far since that a ceasefire agreement. I think there was a bit of some violence over the weekend, but I think it was not by these major two groups. But I'm assuming from what we've been seeing and from the many facets that this war now has taken, even these other smaller militias might be acting on behalf of these big ones who pretending now they've ceased hostilities, but the smaller ones continue to run their errands and cause mayhem. Yeah.
And in fact, the smaller groups or the opportunist group, because they are small and they are opportunists, then they must be getting some benefit from either the unseen, the shadow groups, bigger boys that we are not seeing in this equation, or they probably could be working. Definitely, they could be working in favor of some big teams somewhere. In this case, when I look into the M23 as a group and the push to have them surrender, or M23 as a team, one, Paul Kagame could be talking right now because he feels the pressure, or Paul Kagame could be talking because he feels like, because he's now ready to explode, because he's now ready to face whoever comes in. And therefore, the M23 as a team should be handled with a lot of care, because we want to finally realize peace in this region. And we already know who are these that are behind the M23. That in as much as we say, or we will end up saying, we don't know who is supporting them or who is not supporting them, we have read a tweet from General Mozi telling us that if Kenyan troops dares pull a trigger on M23, the M23 will pull back And in this case, General Muhoozi is talking on behalf of M23. M23 never said anything when General Muhoozi said that if Kenyan troops pull a trigger on them, they'll equally pull back. In this case, when Kagame talks, I will wish that we assume that is M23 talking. Because when General Muhoozi talks and says when Kenyan troops attack, they'll attack, and they completely end up saying nothing about it, then President Kagame tells us that nobody should underscore them, nobody should rate them below the bars. And he goes ahead to tell us if someone if someone makes or puts his own people in tension or the tension of insecurity, he will not let them sleep. That's what he told us yesterday, that if you make my people not sleep, I'll equally make you not sleep. And in this case, the group that is making others not sleep, it's the M23. Therefore, if anything happens to M23, then I know President Kagame will want to react.
Very well.
In this case, we'll either directly react, like what happened with Tanzania. When Jakaya Kikwete wanted to fight the M23, Paul Kagame and Jakaya Kikwete almost picked a fight. They couldn't see eye to eye at that point. Therefore, I wish that the M23 thing, because people are now talking, let us get to listen. Let us get to give an ear to President Kagame, Tshisekedi, and every person involved in this. Because you fight the M23, and already Ugandan forces were, joined the Kenyan troops, which are now supposed to fight the M23.
It's very complicated.
And we are saying Muhoozi is in support of probably M23. Then it becomes a complicated issue. So I wish that we first listen to them, we get to know what is happening, then we sort an issue when there is a ceasefire.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Wanda Wesonga. Right now we're joined by Dr. David Matanga. Doctor, very good morning to you. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Good morning, Miriam. Thank you very much in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much for the good, some of the analysis that Wanda Wesonga has been making. It is very clear that the owner of the dog comes out when the dog is going to be brought down, or when a dog has been caught stealing another bone. That's all I can say for now, and the rest, because I read English literature, and I believe Wanda can understand, and Miriam, what I mean. First of all, the whole of the last week and the whole of 1 month have been very consistent. I told you that the owners, the actors of M23, those actors in the whole saga of Congo are not sincere. Is it on record? Have you not heard now? That is there. One of the problems I have is that ask people, didn't I tell you? I said it, Wanda. You have been seeing what I've been posting. Those who don't read my comments, then they can't pass the exams in the future. Those in Congo and Uganda and DRC and Rwanda. I have been telling you that the owners of this, the people in the conflict of DRC Congo, are not sincere. There is nobody there is sincere, including Tshisekedi himself. That's why they hide on Zoom. When the conference is held in Nairobi, none of them would like to come face to face with each other. And yesterday, God showed us the owner. The man comes out and says, the problem is not Rwanda. The problem is DRC Congo. When there is an election, they look for an excuse to attack and accuse Rwanda. Can we give him some element of truth? I want to balance this argument from Rwanda's already made up made up mind. Let me balance. Two of you might disagree with me. Every leader that is apart from Kenya, and I want to repeat, every country apart from Kenya, Tanzania, Sudan in East Africa, every country that is in East African community has an interest in Congo, including Tshisekedi himself. Of course, he's the owner of the country. But Miriam, he also has rebels that he has been funding. Allah, let's talk the truth. We want to help Uhuru Kenyatta to bring this to a conclusion. We want to help anybody who wants to talk about this conflict of Democratic Republic of Congo. If you don't say the truth, I have given you examples on this platform, Miriam and Wanda. When we were negotiating the Uganda peace process between Kony and Museveni, and between Uganda and the LRA, we flew to Khartoum and met General Bashir for 6 hours. And we told General Bashir, stop arming the LRA. Now we are in a peace process, isn't it? We flew again for the first time in my life after 23 years away not seeing Museveni. I last saw Museveni in 1982. 82, when he was leaving to the bush that evening in Speak Hotel. I'd never seen him again. After 23 years, I flew in Uganda with Chisano, Dr. Yakamacha, Chikwete, and Chisano, Riak, Chikwete, and several European Union ambassadors representing their heads of state. We were in Kampala for 8 days. We met President Museveni. We discussed and told President Museveni. He told us frankly, he came out and said, I have been supporting SPLA and Riek Machar, who is here. I've been giving you arms to fight Bashir, the Northern Arab. Now from today, since there is a peace process, I will not give you arms anymore. You hear me that? And those who will pick this clip, take my word. Because I'm here. You can see that picture. And the studio, bring that picture up. For the first time in 23 years, I'd never been to Uganda at all. I met President Museveni. We shook hands after he had said that. And the President Museveni said he recognizes the peace agreement, whatever will come out of the Juba peace talks, guaranteed by UN, guaranteed by AU, guaranteed by EU, guaranteed by IGAD, guaranteed by East Africa, guaranteed by SADC, and guaranteed by ECOWAS. That's it. And today, the war in northern Uganda, Miriam, is finito. There's no war there. There's poverty. I am not supposed to look after poverty. Am I a poverty eradicator? No. I am not a government of the Republic of Uganda to look for poverty, to look for money, parish model, which is working in Uganda. It will alleviate the people's problems, not Dr. Masanga. I finished the war. We signed the papers. All the 5 agreements, including the agreement of DDR. I brought 102,000 men, women, children, abducted younger kids back to Uganda. They were given amnesty. Listen to that story. You like it? If you don't like it, don't go around telling lies. That's the true story. Documents are there. The Uganda Constitution is very clear, it was very clear, made very clear that whoever returns, surrenders to the government, to the church, to the embassy, to every place is given amnesty. From 1980 to up to date, that year, 2008, all combatants in the Uganda government, against the government of Uganda, were given amnesty. 102,000 LRA combatants and the children, women, families, removed combatants. They could have been 40,000. They entered Uganda People's Defense Forces. Telling me, cut my hands today and poke my eyes out. If you go to Mogadishu Sector 1, which Miriam does not like to hear the name. Mogadishu Sector 1, Miriam, the Uganda People's Defense Forces, most of the officers, most of the men are the men that came from the Road Resistance Army. They are incorporated in UPDF. They have assimilated themselves. Some have gone back to school. Now, the point I'm making here is this situation. Miriam, I'm developing a point of insincerity. Insincerity until you are caught that you are the owner of the dog. His Excellency, General Paul Kagame, has exposed himself by saying DRC has a problem of elections. And here, that's why they always bring this problem. I don't have anything to do with M23. But M23 near the border has captured all the territory with heavy arms. Miriam, can we ask ourselves, where did these heavy arms come from? If the Congolese army itself doesn't have those arms, where did these people, is there a mercenary group that is dropping these heavy sophisticated arms that are more sophisticated than, and I repeat, than the Congolese army? Those are some of the questions I will be asking on a new show coming tomorrow. Dan, can you answer me that? Where are these guys taking territory, amassing territory from the Rwanda agreement of Angola? And I warned my father-in-law down there that one day you will burn yourself. When these guys are fighting, be careful. You're a general in the army. You fought Savimbi. Be careful. There's something wrong here because the actors are not sincere. The M23 themselves, wonder how many we have interacted with them now on the platform. Just put Matanga's platform. You saw how many who came? You saw the commanders who came? Like 25 commanders who came there and exchanged real things with the Congolese. They were there. They battled it until I kept quiet. In fact, I could not. I said, let me leave them to battle it out. So there is something that needs to be done very efficiently on the question of Congo. I agree with Rwanda to some extent, and Miriam, that things have to move. But we cannot have the same things. Like Rwanda said yesterday by that gentleman called Elstein, is it? Who says things will be the same, done the same, always the same. We talk about it. Now we have changed diversionary tactics by saying the Congolese are in election mood. That's why they want to postpone the elections. But what type of election do you hold in your own country? Hello? Africa, we need to start asking questions. You are criticizing another country's election, but which one do you hold in yours? Where you get 99.999%. Wallahi, Africa.
And
Wacha tuambiane ukweli. This world needs the truth.
And he sounds like he has a preferred candidate in DRC.
No, the Miriam, let's get this very clear. Are we looking for a state? Let's dismember this Congo. Let's rearrange Congo then. I'm talking with anger now. You cannot have one country in Africa always bringing us problems. People amassing wealth, banking money in Europe, and we are here busy killing our throats. One country, Yugoslavia went down one day. Europe is very peaceful. It is playing football. Although they are cheating us on football. They have 13 teams. We have 0, almost 5. We have a population of 1.4 billion, and they have a smaller population, not even 500 million. And they have 13 teams because we are stupid people. Eh? And they poach all our players. In all the European teams, 3/4 of the players have African origin. What bewitched us? Nini lituua? When you give Mwendwa in your country, a man called Mwenda who has a speech therapy, you give him I don't know whether he's speaking or not, they eat the money. They can't even train one player. Kenya would be sending players. Uganda would be sending players abroad. We pick money, they send back money, and that money helps the economy. But we eat the money. We are corrupt. If you find a minister of sports in Africa carrying a girlfriend who is, when you are going to Brazil, and Brazil has the best girlfriends or best women on earth who can dance salsa, then you must go through the ventilator, not even the window, to go and tell God, ban me quickly. Africa needs, we are already in hell. Medium, we are in hell. If a president of another country comes to say, hello, it is elections, that's why they are fighting. Okay, how did you know? Then tell us your candidate. I am not saying Tshisekedi is clean. No. Tshisekedi also arms rebel groups.
And he also went ahead to say that we all know how Tshisekedi came into power. He did not win these elections and all that. And
yeah.
That is,
so if he's arming, if he has got a preferred candidate,
could that be the problem he's been having?
Let's say it. It's my comrade. These are younger people who are training in they have just wait, William. They have just grabbed the power. These are younger people training in a Chingwea. When all of us were already up. Hey! We have killed too many people. Now we cannot rest. These are younger people. They have virtue and got power. Fine. They are friends. But some of us have to be very critical now. Time has come for criticizing people. When you criticize, you are silenced. Because they know how to silence people. Now, international community is the one causing us all these problems. I'm telling you, the next week it will be, who is everybody? Oh, we are flying. What? Why are you flying to do what? You are, hey. Flying to do what? Tutaongea. Stop funding rebels. Africa needs peace. Our role is to talk about peace. The next subject is Central African Republic. And you are going to see, Miriam, this is another bonanza. Tshisekedi that can negotiate. And Tshisekedi can go to Chad to negotiate. You know, any territory with the French, I don't know. Miriam and Wanda, and the listeners, you people who were born in British colonies, we are happy. I am sorry, Congolese, don't harass me. But I think we are being led by very difficult situations. How do you go to Chad to go and solve a problem of Chad? Yet your country has 133 rebel groups standing on your territory. And Africa. Chinua Achebe was not wrong when he said the anthills of Savannah. Oh my, oh my. Miriam, indeed, the anthills of Savannah are acting, are working now in our region. Look at yesterday's anthill of Savannah condemning another ant, saying you don't have democracy, yet yours is worse. Is that not the anthill of Savannah? By Chinua Achebe? What did he tell you? You are listed on a stock exchange as selling diamonds. But when we look for a diamond place if I find Tanzania selling diamonds, that's okay. They have a diamond called Shinyanga. Are we? Let's be honest. Come out of this Kagame. Let's not talk lies. Threaten people all the time. President, His Excellency Kagame is my friend. Great friend of mine. When he meets me, he stands and greets me in all these African meetings. He says, hey, Matanga, where are you? You don't come to Rwanda. Yeah, we have met at AU, said, hi, how are you? Like, yes, how are you? But now, sir, you are coming on international platform saying the problem there is election. Now, once election starts, they start condemning me. But now, the men near your border have the most sophisticated weapons, ready to kill Kenyan troops. Should I keep quiet? If Kenyan troops are killed, God forbid, I feel the pity, the sympathy. And because Kenya has been there for many refugees, for millions of refugees, most of the heads of state, most of us exited from Kenya, through Kenya, to become what we are today. We owe a lot to Kenya today. And we cannot talk lies. Even Kagame owes a lot to Kenya. He was a taxi driver here, earning a living in Kenya. Matanga exited from Kenya. There was no other country. It has paid the price of stability in the region. So when I see a camouflage, a trap set to destroy my brothers, it's like when I see a trap set to destroy British soldiers anywhere, I will fight along with them. Yes, I'll take off this tie and go into combat. Yes, I'll defend them because they gave me the ability to read, the ability to analyze, the tools of analysis when I needed them. Equally, Kenya, if we are going to plot to kill Kenyan troops, the M23 is still occupying and capturing more territory. You are not telling them, keep quiet and let's go to table. What peace process are you doing? Mr. President, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, these are your points. One, the peace process in summary medium lacks clarity. Two, the peace process lacks confidence. Three, the peace process has shadow way operators. 4, the peace process has ego and the militancy. 5, the peace process has external dark forces from outside the continent manipulating it, handling it, or the conflict, not the peace process, the conflict. So these components, and you can add the 61, one day, you have a 61, ego. This peace process has ego. This conflict has ego. If you find the M23 talking, they have ego. They don't want to know about the Congo. They say they are discriminated, which is true also. And then you find the Congolese, they said we don't like those Rwanda. The 7th key point, the peace process, the conflict in Congo has ethnicity. God cut my hand. If you don't solve that as a mediator, if you don't put that down and step your feet and control it, it will go and you'll be the one blamed. Tanzanians pulled out. Why do you think they pulled out and went to MONUSCO? Why? Why tell me why? 57 of their men in cold blood were massacred through a trap set up by M23. Who is the commander of that battalion? Who was the commander of that wing of M23? Where did he get the strength to kill Tanzanians? Hello? Hello? Am I preaching today? Like a Bishop Masinde. Hello? Is there anybody out there who has heard me? Miriam. Hello? Am I clear? Where did M23 have the authority? These are questions I'm going to be asking on my show. Get started. You should be putting that show now. Let people give it a glimpse tomorrow. There will be a show. Tough questions by Dr. Masanga. I've moved this an inch, a notch higher now. No more playing in the levels. I'm going there. I'm heading there. I will make Africa work. We shall be asking tough questions, Miriam, like the question of democracy that you have just asked. How do you equate democracy in another state when your own democracy is not worthy? Hello? Are you there? Wanda, you have listened to some of the sermons of Bishop Masinde. There is a word he uses, Miriam. It has come out. What does he say, Wanda? I can't hear you, but it looks you don't know. Am I clear? There's a word Bishop Masinde, and that's why I like his sermon. Am I clear? There you are. I'm not going to talk about any other things which I don't know. That one I leave to Miriam. But this one has come out openly and said, DRC Congo is, if you are the owner of the dog, it has been found stealing bonds by the public and they are stoning it, or they are about to stone it. You have to come out. So, who is the owner of the dog that is destabilizing DRC Congo? Question for tomorrow. In my tough questions. Am I clear? Thank you very much, Miriam. Have I have I made the platform shaking? Because some people, because they have power, they think they are older than us. I am older than Kagame. Yes, I'm 68 years old, and I don't want God to harass me when he asks me, why didn't you speak to help the world? I sacrificed my life. I have got, Miriam, a lot of threats. On Wanda, you have seen the type of threats on my Facebook brought by those same people. But I want to speak to save Kenyan troops from this Mount malcontents. Can I put it in good English? Malcontents. Omutima emivundu. Kimyoyo kimivi. Kimyoyo kimivi. I don't know in Luo you can say what. But bad hearts, poverty of faith, of not telling the mediator that we are the ones arming these guys. We want to solve a better Africa. We can get, do you know, Miriam, do we know that you can get that diamond for free? It can come even on a well-organized vehicle. Isn't it? And you said it. If we are fighting for minerals, we can organize for these minerals to be dug in an organized manner. We discovered oil. Somalia was told by the French and the Norwegians to go and choose Kenya, Madame Miriam. And choose Kenya for oil blocks. Is Somalia drilling the oil now? No. But when the ICJ ruled, Somalia pulled back. They can't do anything. Then they started sharing a report that even the oil blocks there don't have oil. Have you heard that?
Kenyan side.
Yeah. So that they don't have oil. Is Kenya fighting Somalia? But Masanga shouted. I went and removed a judge, a dangerous judge from Mogadishu, a leader of a clan who had become an ICJ judge who was against Kenya. How many people have done that? I'm not a Kenyan, but I've gone there to ICJ to defend this country called Kenya. I went there to defend this country called Kenya. I've defended it in the ICJ. And I said, there is no need of Kenya and Somalia fighting over oil blocks. This was Matanga. I made my applications. Check the records. And the judge, the Somali judge, Judge Abdurrahman, somebody resigned from the panel and became an observer on the panel. Is there anybody complaining about the boundary again? Where is it? Have you heard of the complaint of the boundary? Is that not sacrifice? That's a personal sacrifice. And if we don't speak in Africa, who will speak? If we don't make sincerely, if we don't tell people about Congo, if the actors in Congo war don't come to Nairobi to eat our food, and then they eat your food and go, and then they start fighting again. You are giving these people energy to eat food, and then they go and fight to kill people. No. Let the East African community put their feet down to ask the people funding these guys, arming these guys, giving them guns. Who? Their leaders there. Shadow way. Shadow way. Shadow way. Shadow way. Allah, let God help me. If I reach heaven, God will ask me, you want to come to heaven? Why didn't you say these things while you are on earth? But the African earth is already hell. I land my mic. Thank you very much.
All right, that's
Miriam in Nairobi. Thank you very much. Wanda in Nairobi. This is Dr. David Matanga live from London. studios and command center. God bless you. Back to you, Miriam.